As I mentioned earlier, this is a first-time event, and so I thought I would just very quickly run through the program and how things are going to flow today. We have a panel discussion that's going to follow some remarks by Keith Myers, who's the Entrepreneur of the Year for this year. So just very briefly, I'm about to cue a video introduction that's going to talk a little bit about our panelists. And I will say now, I did get a call last night from Don Hargroder, and he had told me when we first invited him, and he accepted that he was working a deal that he was hoping to close by the end of the year, and lo and behold, and I know all of us in this room understand how that works, he has a critical meeting he had to be in today. So he sends his regrets, but his introduction is still in the video, but Don will not be able to make it today. So after the video, we'll invite Mr. Myers up to say a few words, and then he'll take his seat on the stage, and then I'll introduce the other panelists and our moderator. So Jim, I believe we're ready, and why don't you check the monitors, and thanks again for coming.
ABiz Magazine and AcadianaBusiness.com welcome you to the first ever ABiz Entrepreneur of the Year Symposium. We look forward to today's unique conversation among some of the top business leaders in Acadiana and thank them for taking the time to share their insight with all of us. We'd like to begin by acknowledging our sponsors for this inaugural event, Regions Bank and Regions Insurance.
This moment, getting here took 3 years of sleepless nights and postponed vacations. Your dad said play it safe. Your husband kept the faith. But franchising is why you partnered with Regions in the first place. We share your vision for moving forward. And at moments like this, that makes all the difference. Is your business at a turning point? Turn to Regions.
Our digital media partner is Vidox Motion Imagery. Today's event is also being recorded for broadcast on AOC, Lafayette's Community Access Channel. We'll publish the air dates on ABuzz as soon as we receive them. Our panel includes 2 previous Entrepreneur of the Year honorees and 1 Dealmaker of the Year recipient. Dr. Kip Schumacher received the first ABiz Award for Entrepreneurism in 2009. His instincts for business development first emerged when he was a med student, where he worked his way through school by designing, making, and selling handcrafted jewelry. By the time he graduated, Schumacher had grown his cottage company to 5 employees and developed a customer base across the South. His medical career began in the emergency room at Opelousas General Hospital, where he learned firsthand about the fast-paced, ever-changing, stressful environment of an ER. He also recognized that teamwork, from the patients to the professionals, was the key to successful outcomes. That's where the seeds were planted for the Schumacher Group. Founded in 1994, the company now ranks #1 on the ABiz Top 50 and operates in 29 states across the U.S. with almost 1,600 employees and 2013 revenues in excess of $612 million. Lenny Lemoyne was the 2013 Entrepreneur of the Year. His story begins with a family-owned lumber company founded by his father in the 1930s. 40 years later, Lenny and his brother Tim sold that business, and in 1979 launched a small entity called the Cottonport Company, building small construction projects. Sensing greater opportunity in Lafayette than central Louisiana, they changed the name and moved the company here in 1983, primarily building public projects for the next 10 years. Since then, the company's customer base has expanded into the private sector. Both the new Lourdes Hospital and current LGMC expansion were Lemoyne projects, for example, and reported 2013 revenues of $285 million. With over 200 employees, the Lemoyne Company ranked number 8 on this year's ABIZ Top 50. Last year, Lemoyne also stepped into a key community role, accepting the chairmanship for the nonprofit organization that will develop the horse farm property into a public park. Don Hargroder received the first ABIZ Dealmaker of the Year award in 2009. He founded Courtesy Automotive Group in 1987, and in the decades since, has surfed the ever-changing automobile industry like no one else. He now owns new and used car dealerships in Lafayette, Broussard, Brobridge, Abbeville, Morgan City, and Franklin, and has a robust online business as well. An avid sports fisherman, he also recently cut the ribbon for a new luxury resort and marina he developed at Grand Isle called Hurricane Hole, with a restaurant, townhomes, and slips for 60 boats of up to 120 feet. With almost 400 employees and 2013 revenues of $387 million and growing, Courtesy Automotive Group ranks number 4 on the ABIZ Top 50. Over the past 2 decades, the 2014 Entrepreneur of the Year took his business from a family kitchen in Palmetto to the big board on Wall Street. Keith Myers and his wife Ginger literally mapped out the plans for LHC Group on a paper napkin at their kitchen table to help 4 elderly neighbors avoid premature admission to a nursing home. The year was 1994, and in just over 10 years, they took the company public, now operating in 29 states. The LHC Group has over 10,000 employees and posted 2013 revenues just north of $658 million. Even as they were growing this company, the Myers founded Coteau Grove Farms near their home in Sunset in 2008, with the goal of becoming a top quality breeder of Louisiana-bred thoroughbred racehorses. With 318 starts in the past 3 years, they can boast 82 firsts, 55 seconds, and 36 thirds, with purse earnings of over $3 million. Keith has also become active in the Louisiana Thoroughbred Breeders Association and serves on its board of directors. You can read his full profile in the current issue of ABIZ, in print or online. In a few minutes, we'll bring the panel to the stage. But to begin today's program, please welcome the 2014 Entrepreneur of the Year, Keith Myers.
Wow, thanks, Jeremy, and thanks everyone. This is quite overwhelming, and for those of you that know me, this is not really my cup of tea. I'd rather be in the trenches doing some work somewhere, but truly, this is a huge honor, and it's also incredibly humbling. Humbling because I'm in a room with many people that, in my opinion, are just as deserving or more deserving than me to be here, and to be accounted among all of you is in itself a huge honor. This was a huge surprise, and when I learned how this came to be, I understand that a large number of our employee base was responsible for nominating me for this. And I have to tell you, that's more touching to me than anything I can imagine. To be thought of that way, and to have the people that you respect and work with every day think that you're doing an okay job, that's in itself enough reward to get me out of bed every morning. So I just want to acknowledge and thank them, because in my opinion, I work with some of the the best healthcare professionals in America each day. And so, I accept this on behalf of the entire LHC Group family. So thank you. I want to, I kind of want to take just for a minute, go back to the beginning, and I'm going to ask my wife, Ginger, to stand up. Ginger, would you stand up and be recognized for those that don't know you? So they're my good friends and colleagues, is the real entrepreneur of the year, because this all had to start somewhere. And, on one day, Ginger left a stable job with a nice salary, working for a hospital in Opelousas, to go out and take care of 4 elderly citizens who were without service. And there was a hope that maybe we'd be able to find some kind of way to get a license to be able to bill for that one day. And I can't tell you how many times I think back, to that day. And back in those days, as we go to bed each night, seeing Ginger hang her white nurse's uniform on a hook right on the bathroom door, because she was on call every night. And as the census grew and we got up to about 50 patients, the phone would ring almost every night. And Ginger would answer the phone, and sometimes she'd get up and put her white nurse's uniform on and leave. And sometimes she'd just go to another room to talk so she wouldn't wake me. And then the next morning we would just in conversation, I'd say, so what was the call about last night? Sometimes an elderly patient was in need, maybe anxious, maybe it was a medication error, and their concern was to a point where Ginger felt she needed to go out and sit with them. And then sometimes she'd just sit on the phone with them until a family member got there. And then today, for those of you in healthcare, we know that it's in vogue to talk about reducing rehospitalizations and unnecessary trips to the hospital. We were doing that 20 years ago. We just didn't put the emphasis on it that we do today. And so today, we're very blessed to be counted among the organizations in the country that do what I just explained better than anyone else. But when I meet with payers and policymakers in Washington, they want to know, what's the secret sauce? How do we accomplish that? What's the metric or the computer formula or whatever? And I explained to them that it's really the connection, the human personal connection that's made on the first day when the first nurse or clinician goes out to home and connects with the patient and family. And when they see that you really care and that you're passionate about what you do and it's not just a business, then they'll pick up the phone and call you in the middle of the night because they trust you. So Ginger, thank you for setting the tone for all of us. And by the way, the tagline that you see, it's all about helping people. It's not a fancy slogan. Ginger wrote that on a napkin, and it's her handwriting that you still see today on that logo. I'll close by saying this. We owe a huge debt of gratitude, in my opinion, to the people of Acadiana and to the people before us who made Acadiana the place that it is. I really believe that. I was sharing with Jason earlier. We recently made a decision to move our home office operations solely to Lafayette. Today we operate back office functions in other markets. And that decision was made after doing research and looking at metrics from other markets. And one of the things that we do really well here is communicate, even by telephone, how much we care. When we make acquisitions in other states, it's not uncommon that Don or I go out and visit those locations and they tell us, wow, every time I call that office, people are so friendly. Everybody wants to help me. Everybody welcomes me. They ask me if I have children, and they go, where do y'all find all these friendly people? And I just think it's just who we are, and I'm just so proud of that. So in many ways, I think we're in the export business. I think we learn how to care for people and be genuine, and you know, all we do is maybe export that, if you will, and have it become somewhat infectious. So thank you very much. And again, this is a huge honor, and we're just so happy to be part of the community and look forward to paying it back here in Acadiana for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Before we move on with introducing the rest of the panel and the moderator, I do want to pause for a moment and introduce the sponsors who made this possible today. And it's an inaugural event, and we're just so pleased to have them join us to begin what we hope will be a legacy of many, many years to come. So Sean Hubbard is the market president for Lafayette, for Regions Bank. Sean, would you stand? And Brother Marine is the head, I believe, of the entire state for Regions Insurance. And so please help me give a round of applause to them. And I believe their Baton Rouge team is here as well, so we welcome them to Lafayette. And then, of course, Vidox Motion Imagery did the introductory video, and it's always so great to work with Chris. And I don't know exactly what's going on with the audio here, but I think when they get on the mics, that maybe the audio will be working a little bit better. So you saw the introductions, and so our other two panelists, I'll invite Dr. Kip Schumacher to come up and join us on the stage, and Lenny Lemoyne, if you would make your way up and get the mics on. I don't know if Jim wants to come and help y'all with your microphones, and while that's happening, I will briefly introduce the moderator, and I'll say it's going to be brief because I printed out the introduction that I had written for him and I left it at the office. So I'm going to do this one from memory. When we first started doing, brainstorming the idea for this, Leslie Turk and I were sitting over coffee, and we knew that the panel was going to be a really important, inspiring presentation, but you have to have the right person to get the conversation flowing. And both of us said Zach Barker immediately. And Zach and I go back, we're both Tennessee natives. Zach graduated from MTSU, I do remember that, and spent his early career in Nashville. He married a Lafayette woman who was in med school at Vanderbilt. And after, I guess, she graduated, y'all came to Lafayette. And he has his own entrepreneurial history here. He started a sports company here that was amateur sports and team sports, and a lot of the young professionals in the community joined in with that. It was a great networking and fun opportunity. He was one of the co-founders of the, previous officers of the 705. And he's currently the executive director for the Opportunity Machine, which is the entrepreneurial arm of LEDA. So please help me welcome Zachary Barker.
Is this thing working? Daddy used to say you only have to be 5% smarter than the machine you work with. Oh yeah, smarter than a microphone. There you go. All right. Awesome. Thank you very much. First and foremost, I have to tell you, when you guys asked me to do this, I was wowed and very much appreciative. I'm basically looking at where I hope to be in the it's not too near future for me. So these guys, really, I want you to give them another round of applause, but I really want you to do this first for their successes in business, but these guys are tremendous community leaders, and that doesn't happen in every community where the business people take care of the community as a whole as well. So I want you guys really give them a strong round of applause for what they're doing, not just in their companies, but what they're doing for us as citizens of this community and for our state as well. All right. So I'm extremely fired up, so I'm going to try to keep myself calm here. I am a little nervous because I have to tell you, I look around the room. Wow, this is great. I moved here about 4.5 years ago from Nashville, Tennessee. If you hear a little twang, that's where it comes from. I did marry a Cajun girl. Like most people, they bring us back. So I have given these guys a couple of questions. We're really fired up. This is a great, great community that really celebrates entrepreneurism. Congratulations to you guys. I see this being the 500-person event here in the near future. So to get started, really what I want to do with you guys is I want to get from you a success quote, something that really inspires you, and then tell me why did you choose that particular quote. And we can start, Kip, if we can start with you, that would be wonderful.
You know, when he was asking for a quote, I thought back to about the second year of the company. I was realizing that I needed more than a bookkeeper to keep my books. And I really needed somebody who understood accounting and finance. And so I called Bill Craze, who was a retired CFO for a couple of public companies. And Bill comes in, and during the interview process, there's a whiteboard, and he writes 2 words on the whiteboard. And one was focus, and the other one was cash, and cash is king. And I can tell you that those 2 words really are a big part of any success of a business, is that you better make sure you focus on your core business and the mission of your company, and you better make sure that you don't get out too far ahead of your skis, because if you have a good product, people are going to want you to produce it faster than you can unless you got the capital to support it. So cash is king.
Good. Keith, how about you?
Yeah, you know, mine is the Gary Player's quote: "The harder you work, the luckier you get." And I don't play golf. That's Johnny Endes's role in our company. And if any of you ever played, if you know Johnny, you know why I don't play golf. But really, it reminds me of my dad. You know, my dad was the hardest working guy I've ever known, and we were farmers, as most of you know. And he was up before daylight every morning and working till after dark every night. And as a farmer, you'd always depend on the weather and everything. Somehow, we were always okay, and we would end up surviving when others suffered more. And so when I got into school, and you know, by the time high school got there, I had enough data in front of me on every 6 weeks to know I wasn't going to be the smartest guy in the world. So I figured I probably should follow in his footsteps.
I think from my perspective, I think about kind of formal quotes and informal things that have happened in your career. You know, one of the formal quotes that I really like, I saw an interview once with, I guess he was maybe then in the Bush administration, General Colin Powell said, they asked him about success, and he says, you know, there is no secret to success. He said success is preparation, hard work, and learning from failure. And he said, you know, everybody else, you know, who have these kind of just super positive thoughts are really missing the point. You know, it is about what your dad said. And the other thing I think about is years ago we built a prison, and I went to the pre-construction conference, and it was the largest project we ever done. And there was an elderly gentleman who was the architect from New Orleans, and it was a rural site. And I said, in my little pitch, I said, you know, I hope that we can be through with the site work by the 1st of January before the weather gets too bad, and then we can go vertical. And the meeting ended, and he walked up and he put his hand on my shoulder. He said, son, hope is not a plan.
I think that's a good one. If you're taking notes, hope is not a plan is probably a nice one. I'll give you one of my favorites. Little green fella you may have watched on TV, Yoda always says, do or do not. There is no try. I think you guys would probably agree with that as well. So, Keith, now I know obviously you're a humble gentleman, and maybe we need to ask Ginger to chime in on this as well. You're obviously both very successful business leaders. You've had great successes. That's why you're here. But there are shortfalls that happen along the way. Can you tell us about one of the times that you had a shortfall, a little bit about it, and then really what you learned from that specific experience?
So certainly there with LHC, everything hasn't been smooth sailings. I mean, we're in the healthcare business, so ups and downs. But I go back to the shortfall that taught me the greatest lesson was actually when my dad and I were still on the farm. When I was probably in my mid to late 20s, somehow I came up with this great idea that we should double crop by running feeder cattle on the farm. I'd never been in the cattle business, but I must have seen it somewhere, and so I've always been pretty good with math and love to play with numbers, so I had figured this all out on paper, and it looked great. We just needed to fence in the property, and my dad said, I really don't think that's a good idea, and then I convinced him with more data that it was a great idea. So we went forward and we bought cattle, and I'll never forget the first day I was so excited. We were there, and the trucks pulled up from wherever the auction was out of state with the load of cattle, and they opened the back of the truck where I told them to, in a 100-acre pasture, and we watched our investment run straight across the pasture, through the fence, and off into the neighboring farm. And then later, I thought to ask someone who actually had cattle. And they said, well, you can't do that. You have to put them in a holding pen and let them calm down. And so the lesson was, just because something looks good on paper doesn't mean it's going to work out. And it's probably a good idea to partner with someone that actually knows how to do it. So thank God for Ginger, and then for Johnny, who followed her, and now for Don Stelly, who are all the nurses that run the clinical operation of the company. I need to tell you that, because if any of you or your loved ones receive care, you need to know those people are here.
That's awesome. I think that's one of the better stories I've ever heard right there. I actually wish you would have told me that story about 10 years ago. You might have saved me some trouble. I think anybody who's ventured on their own, they've done the, wow, this looks great on paper, and then you get out there and you start knocking on doors and asking questions, and all of a sudden you go, well, there went 30 grand right down the drain. So hopefully it didn't cost you as much. Or for you guys, I'm sure the cattle cost you plenty. So, all right, Lenny, this actually kind of goes in line with that. If there's someone here that's thinking, I'm in a place where I think I want to do this entrepreneurial thing. I want to take the leap. But they don't know what to do next. What are one or two keys that you would give them to say, take these 2 next steps right now to figure out if this is the place that you want to be?
I guess the first thing that, I would say is that you kind of gotta, I'm assuming you're working in another organization, or you're a 2 or 3 man shop. You kind of gotta recalibrate your thinking, and if you want to go to the next level, it is about people, and it is about making other people successful. So your passion kind of, in many ways, has to move from making money to making others successful. And if you build people to be better at what they do, then your organization's sustainability is much greater. And then I think you really got to have a value system and a purpose that's just rock solid, because if you're going to go to the next level, as Keith said, it's not always going to be smooth sailing. You're going to hit some tough times, and it's during those times that you really got to fall back on your values, and they got to be clear to you, and they got to be clear to the people that work with you. So that would be the 2 things that I would suggest.
Outstanding. All right. Kip, if you could share one clear success lesson from your experience, what is the lesson you would wish for business leaders, community members, and emerging entrepreneurs in our community?
I think probably one of the most important things that anybody who's going to start a business needs to do is just make sure that they know what they're committing themselves to, and clearly understand what value proposition you're going to bring to the table, and make sure that you understand what that means, before you pull the trigger and kind of go down that path of being an entrepreneur. running a business is not for the faint of heart. It's filled with exciting times, but there's also challenges around every corner. So again, make sure you know what your product is, what value you're going to bring, you commit yourself to it, and then move forward.
Very good. Keith, I think this is a expected but fun question right here. So when you think back to starting your company, right? And again, we may need to ask Ginger since she was at the table and seems to drive a lot of this as well. When you think back to starting the company, tell me about how you guys felt, your fears, your excitements, your worries, and really in the first weeks through the first year, and how do those differ from today?
Sure. You know, I think many of you in the room probably can identify with this. It's Kip probably said it best. You're excited and scared at the same time. It's but not scared enough to stop, because the excitement is obviously and you can't stop. That's right. I forgot about that part. That's right. You know, I think certainly for the first couple of weeks, you know, it's really scary, you know, and then as time goes on, you get a little better at it, you get more confident. And when do you really feel confident? You know, I don't know. I guess the real answer is I'm still waiting for that. But in our case, about 3 or 4 years, you know, I think we knew that we were going to, you know, be in this for the long haul. But how it's different today is this for me. We're incredibly blessed, as you all know, and today the thing that keeps me up at night is making sure that we don't lose our entrepreneurial spirit and the thing that got us here in the first place. As an organization gets bigger and bigger, it has a tendency to layer up, and it's slower to make decisions. And we spend an incredible amount of time, more so today than ever, developing young talent and doing our best to train them up to make decisions on the spot and not to become a centralized corporation. And I say it with emphasis because those of you that know LHC may know that corporate is referred to as the C word in our company. No one ever says that. What's here in Lafayette is the home office. It's not corporate.
Outstanding. I love it. I love it. Kip, this one's for you. Tell us a story about an aha moment that you had, a moment when you had an epiphany about yourself or your business, and then really from there, what steps did you take to move it from idea to success? And we can talk about the jewelry business, or we can talk about the medical business, whatever you want. Give me the aha moment and tell me all about it.
Well, that just kind of opened it up, but I'm gonna talk about you know, emergency medicine. And you know, I practiced emergency medicine in Opelousas for about 15 years before we started the Schumacher Group. And I remember sitting in the emergency department and with my nurse director, Karen Reynolds, who you know, I just had so much respect for. She really kind of helped me develop the philosophy that I had about what it was that we were supposed to do in healthcare. You're supposed to take care of patients and treat them with respect. And so Karen and I were sitting in the emergency department and then heard that a big national company had come in to bid on my contract, you know, to provide services. And you know, at the time, emergency medicine was a relatively new specialty, and this big company was touting the fact that they were going to bring all these value-added services, and the truth is they were just a staffing company, and they didn't really provide these value-added services. And the thing that Karen and I did very well was we realized that healthcare was a team effort. It wasn't just about the doc walking in and writing the script, and it wasn't about what the nurse did. It's about what the doc and the nurse and the ward clerk and the lab techs and the local docs and the whole, you know, community of stakeholders working together. They're the ones that were responsible for what I would call quality care. And so Karen and I were very involved in all these different arenas, and so all of a sudden I was confronted with a threat from someone who I felt that didn't do as good of a job as we did. And so Karen and I said, you know, we need to go out and teach people how to do this. And a couple of days later, I got a call from a a friend of mine who was the director at a facility here in Acadiana, and he said he was leaving this directorship that he had been in for 15 years, and he said, Kip, you need to come bid for this contract because I know that you could make a difference there. And so I did, and when I did, that was the beginning of the Schumacher Group, and I went in with the intention that if I get this second one, then I'm going moving forward, and had a plan on where I was going. So isn't it great to be in healthcare?
That's outstanding. All right, so Lenny, I know your personality. I know that you're a very structured and disciplined guy, and I personally appreciate that because I'm not really as much that guy. But I love the fact that you're about getting stuff done. So for our community, right, we are a community based on creativity, ingenuity. The mentality of getting stuff done is really what we're about. So tell me what you're most fired up about for the next few years of your business and this community, and what are you most worried about and apprehensive about going forward?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting that, we would not have, I think, said this 10 years ago, maybe not even 5 years ago, but Lafayette, Southwest Louisiana it's the place to be. I mean, when you look at what's going on with these LNG projects and, energy, provided it doesn't find a new bottom, our resources are really just putting us in a tremendous position in terms of our economic future. And Lafayette, long before this new development, has always been very successful because of the people and the culture and just the attitude about, we're going to figure it out. I know when I came here in 1983, I'd left a town of 1,000 people that had one red light. We got here, there was more than one red light. We said, that's a great opportunity. But about 2 years later, there were bumper stickers on cars saying the last person out of town turned the lights off. It's amazing what Lafayette has done in terms of it kind of repurposing itself and having greater diversity. So, I'm really excited about the total opportunity. But when I look at what the Chamber is doing and what some of our other organizations are doing in terms of really stepping up strategic initiatives that can put us in a whole different position in terms of our ability to respond to these opportunities and to attract business and to attract talent, I'm really excited about that. I'm obviously very excited about the horse farm playing a role in that because it is an indicator today when you look at any city, particularly this, millennial generation, the quality of your parks and of your outdoor opportunities is in many ways the way the city is viewed. So I think we're doing some great things as a community to take advantage of, the position we're in with the unique kind of resource play that's out there. In terms of our business, it's a high risk business, highest rate of failure in the history of the American economy. So if you're not always concerned in my business, you're not always in the business. You don't stay in the business. I mean, you gotta, like flying a helicopter, you gotta have both hands on the sticks and both feet on the pedals, or you let one go, you have a problem. So I'm always concerned about how the price of oil is going to affect what we do and, all of the things that are outside of your control. And I'm sure everybody in this room, as we sit here today, has a lot of those same concerns.
Right on. Might be the understatement of the week right there. Well said. All right, Keith, this one's for you. Success is one of the best feelings as an entrepreneur. I think we can all agree. Take us to one of your proudest moments where you knew you finally achieved success, and then tell us a little bit about what it took to get to that particular moment.
Well, I mean, obviously, for me, it has to be the day we were all in Times Square and the LHC logo came up on the Jumbotron for the first time, and we started trading as a public company. That was it was really hard to absorb all of that. But the thing I was most proud of, obviously it had a huge financial impact on all of the founders and our family and all, but I can truthfully say the thing I was most proud of was the fact that we were a Louisiana company. If you look at our history, it's quite evident that we have a huge amount of Louisiana pride. And the second was that we had done it from the kitchen table all the way to that point without being over-levered, without changing who we were. We were just that same little company that started in 1994 with just 4 patients and happened to have grown it to north of 100 million in revenue. And if you know who the founding shareholders are, one of them was Miss Earlene Bem from Palmetto. And Miss Earlene was not just a venture capitalist, but she was my 3rd grade school teacher. And so how did she come into the picture? She came into the picture because we needed $50,000 to post a bond to open our first office, and we didn't have $50,000, and she did. She had just retired as a school teacher, so she put up her school teacher retirement fund. And when we went out on the road for the IPO in the weeks before that, I would go out and tell the LHC story. And so in the story of who we are, I would talk about the 3rd grade school teacher. And no one really connected with it. And I realize now that they thought it was not true. They thought I was basically kind of making it up, because obviously a lot of people do that. And then the day that we went public, we had a closing dinner, and in walks Miss Earlene, and I introduced her, and they were all like, "You have to be kidding me." So for me, that was a day that I stepped back and said, well, maybe we did all right.
Wow, that's great. By far the most impressive 3rd grade student I think we've ever met, right? You must have done something right. My 3rd grade teacher I don't think is quite as impressed. All right, guys. So we're going to finish up. I want to kind of do some rapid fire stuff. We're just going to have some fun. This gives us a chance to kind of get into your minds and see what you would do if we could do it all over again. So I'm going to give you a scenario, okay? And we'll just start with Kip. We'll start with you, and we'll move across to Lenny. Let's pretend that we're starting over. You're reset to 0 in a brand new community. You get to keep your knowledge base and retain your experience. You have $1,000, a smartphone, and a laptop. What are you going to do in the next 7 days?
Well, since life's about how many resources do you have, how much time do you have, and how much energy do you have? And that's all we've got. Well, there's no resources, so I'm going to save that for beer and tacos, okay? So, the second thing is, though, that, you have the knowledge, but you also need people. So the first thing I'd do is reach out to people in the community that I thought I needed to be part of my team and convince them that there's a time when I'm going to need them, when I have resources. And the second one is decide what I'm going to do from the standpoint of the product offering. Is it still going to be the exact same thing I've done in the past? And if so, then I need to come up with my story and go out there and sell it. And through charismatically and energy, go out there and sell it.
Awesome. Keith, how about you? Same question. You're in a new community. You're starting over. You get to keep your knowledge and your experience. You have $1,000, a smartphone, and a laptop. What do you do? Next 7 days.
In many ways, it's the same thing Kip would do. I'd take a little bit different angle, though. I think I'd go out and try to find a partner who had strengths to complement my weaknesses and align with someone. When I look back at my life, I've kind of done that all along. I know I'm pretty good at modeling and managing and maybe the business development side. If I found somebody who has a great idea and needs help in those areas, I'd try to partner up with them.
Very good.
Well, if you want another partner with something, the idea you get.
I'm gonna tell our story. I'm gonna tell our story.
They're going to partner together. They got $2,000 and 2 smartphones.
50,000, buddy.
Lenny, it cuts it by 3. It's only 33% equity, but you want to put your grand in with
all
these
in.
guys?
Gotta build them up. I'm all in.
All right.
The price of the stock went up.
Lenny, you got 7 days, $1,000, new community. You keep all your knowledge and experience, a smartphone, a laptop. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I'd probably sell the laptop. I'm really not tech savvy, so I'd try to increase my cash holdings right off the bat. But you know, Kip hit it. I mean, it's about people, man. And you know, I'd probably revisit whether I wanted to be in the same business, delivering the same service. You know, the value proposition, and am I passionate about that, and am I willing to go all in and, you know, give it everything I have. And you know, once I made certain that I knew what it is that I wanted to do, then I'd do exactly what Kip said. You know, the first thing I'd do is it's 2 sets of people that I got to have relationships with. First are potential customers. So night and day, I'd be out calling on potential customers, revisiting people I had relationships with, trying to build new relationships, and then do exactly what he said in terms of reaching out to people that I'd either worked with in the past or competed with or know of who can augment my gaps and my weaknesses and help me to build an organization as the opportunities unfold.
That's excellent. All right. So last thing here, we want to know what you guys know. What I want to do is I want to hear from you guys. Give me an application, something like an Evernote or a Dropbox, or give me a book, something that you guys are fired up about right now that you suggest everybody in this room go out and check out today. Lenny, we'll start with you.
I mean, you know, I'm a big reader. I'm never not reading a book, and most of the time it's on leadership or organizational development. But the book that I always go back to is one of Jim Collins' books called Good to Great, because I think he covers everything that, you know, can make an organization sustainable. You know, the easy part of things is to get an organization to a certain level. But the really difficult thing is to sustain that level and continue to improve. And so, you know, he deals with people, he deals with strategy, he deals with structure, and he just kind of did a nice job of putting it all in one piece. And so if I could say to anybody, if you could only read one book, you know, to me, that would be it.
Very good. Keith, how about you?
You know, I'll follow the Lenny's book theme because I'm not a big app guy. If I was going to recommend an app, it would be Excel. Surprise, surprise. But I'll make a recommendation on a book that probably not many of you heard of. It's the name of the book is "You Threw the Flag, You Make the Call," and it was written by one of our board members, Dan Wilford, who was a co-founder of Volunteer Hospitals of America, and he and his twin brother Ned wrote this book together, and it's really a management book. They happen to have both been referees, very successful. Ned went all the way up to the SEC and refereed in the SEC, and Dan actually refereed 5 years in the NFL while he was CEO of Memorial Hermann Houston. And when I think about the challenges our organization faces and the paralysis, if you will, that's what I think is one of the biggest threats, you know, I think it's a good read, and I'd hope that every manager and young manager in our company would read it. It reminds me, maybe I need to incorporate that into the required reading.
Gary, you think you could read that book for me and tell me what it said? Okay. And that's my answer. You know, seriously, I'm not a big reader, you know, but I also know that people like Garrett Keller and others who have been there, done that, and had time to acclimate a lot of the knowledge that I would need to move on to the next level. And that was the thing that I learned early on is if you think you're where you're supposed to be, then you're in trouble, because that's not where it is. It's where, that may have been where you were supposed to be yesterday, but today you got to go someplace else. And so there's this continual evolution. And, you know, the book that might be the right book today, I can promise you'd have to do like you said, Lenny, you'd have to read a book a day, man. And since I'm not big into the computers, and by that I mean I have a lot of people that are really big into them, but I'm not going to do the Excel either, man. Okay, so
If you were big in computers yesterday, it's
it doesn't
obsolete
matter.
today
It's
anyway.
obsolete. That's right, buddy. So anyway, that's the answer. Is I rely on people around me with knowledge that, and then I'll have them come in and tell me about that, and I argue with them about why it doesn't make any sense, right, Gary? So anyway, that's my answer.
All right, well, with that, I'll give you all the book because I think if I could get Kip to read it, he would really appreciate the reason why you'd never have to read another book. If you guys haven't read The 4-Hour Workweek by Timothy Ferriss, first off, I don't think it's possible to get to 4 hours, but the concept is about letting others educate themselves, and then you pull that information from them, how to automate your processes so that you can focus on high-level activities and basically eliminating everything that's garbage around you. So if Facebook isn't making you money, take that app off your phone, right? Would you guys agree? Awesome. Hey, let's, again, really, very sincerely, these guys, I think, are some of the best people in this community. Obviously, business-wise, very successful, but thank you guys for your time. Thank you very much for what you're doing for the people of this community, and thank you, especially on behalf of the 705 and the young people in this community for what you guys do for us as well. You guys really are leaders for us to look to, and I think for the rest of us, we need to give them a huge round of applause and show them appreciation for all of it. Thank you again, Chip. A pleasure. Absolutely.
We do have awards to give each of them. So Zach, if you would help me, this one's for Lenny.
The preceding program was made possible in part with production assistance provided by AOC Community Media.